failure is a habit, but success is also a habit. Failure can be habitual in the sense that it's a vicious cycle. It just goes over and over and over. Let's say you lose the husband, you lose the relationship, you lose the job. When you admit to yourself that, life doesn't look or feel really good right now, there's a part of you that has to admit that you are a part or the reason why this is happening in your life. Failure can really be a habit that you just get really stuck in, but you guys, there's hope. You can stop it. I used to be a hot mess, but I'm so much better than I was before. Success becomes a habit. It builds on itself. It literally gets better over time, you guys. Hey guys, welcome back to this week's podcast episode of the Blooming Podcast. I'm Annabelle Ingleton, I'm your host, and I'm so excited to have you guys back. So this week, I'm gonna talk to you guys about a concept that I've been really interested in sharing with you guys because I think that, not that it's confusing or that people don't think about it in the correct way. I just wanted to form or show you guys a concept in a way that might help you guys understand failure and success a little bit better. So you can see from the title of this episode what I'm referring to. So let's get right to it. I genuinely believe that failure is a habit, but success is also a habit. So what do I mean by that? When you think about what failure is really subjective, right? Like not everybody would say that they're a failure at something or they didn't succeed at something. It's just really subjective. But when I'm talking about failure, what I'm referring to is unhealthy lifestyle, not living out your life to full potential, or living a life where you're in a lot of just survival mode versus being thriving. You guys know, if you listen to last week's podcast episode, what really happens in your comfort zone. I was talking about how when you're living life and you want to be bigger and do bigger things and create more things and have more love and have more health and have more money and have more happiness and just not have any of the unpleasant stuff, it can be hard sometimes because of what you've learned in your past. Your brain starts making these predictions that if I go and do that thing, it's not going to work. And for many of you, for many of us, you've had experiences where bad things really did happen to you, like big painful things, and you never want to experience them again, which is totally fair. But what ends up happening is you're using your past to predict your future. And although sometimes it is accurate, a lot of times it's not. It really does you a disservice because two things have changed. You've changed, you're older, you are wiser, you have more resources, you maybe are an adult now, and the things that happened to you could have happened to you when you were a child or many years back, and you've learned the lessons. So you've changed, and the other thing that's changed is time has changed. You're in a new situation, and when we make predictions about the world just based on our past, we can really miss out on some great things if we're just using the information from the past to decide your future. So let's talk about what that looks like for you. Again, in last week's podcast episode, I was referring to being like in that cave, right? If you haven't listened to last week's podcast episode, go and listen to it. It's so good. I think that podcast episode got double or triple the downloads that an episode normally gets. I think you guys must have been sharing it with somebody. Thank you guys, if you guys were. And then I was repping it a lot, I think, on Instagram, so that helped too. But when we talk about failure is a habit, right? Failure meaning you're giving up. You're not succeeding at the thing that you want to succeed in. So why does that happen? Well, I want you to think of yourself in terms of, let's say you want to lose weight, okay? And your goal is 30 pounds. I want to lose it by your birthday, a couple months, 6 months away or something. And you want to do it because you always look in the mirror and you're unhappy with the way you look and you're unhappy with the way you feel. Now you are having a lot of unpleasant thoughts about yourself. You're not doing a lot of things that you would normally do. Maybe you're staying home, you're not connecting with people. Maybe you're feeling a lot of shame and embarrassment about the way you look. And so because you're embarrassed about the way you look. Maybe you're, again, staying home and just not putting yourself out there. And maybe because of that, let's say if you have a partner, maybe you're not getting close to them. Maybe you're not being as intimate with them as you normally would because you don't like the way you look or feel physically. And now, because you don't like the way you look or feel physically and you're not connecting to your partner, maybe your partner feels really dismissed or unloved or really disconnected from you. And they're feeling really alone as well. And the relationship isn't doing well. You guys, let's say maybe you guys aren't connecting in that way physically too, other than just like spending time together. But now there's issues in the relationship. You guys aren't going to date nights. You guys aren't spending time together. He's resentful. You're insecure and not confident. And now this is spilling over into the way you're with your kids or your friends or your work. You're stressed out because maybe you guys are on the brinks of like breaking up or divorcing, and maybe now you go to work and you're not being very successful, or you're not like paying attention, or you're making a lot of mistakes, and then stuff at work starts falling apart. Maybe you get in trouble, or you get reprimanded, or you get suspended, or things like that. And so maybe at work you're getting in trouble because you are doing the things that you would normally do, making mistakes, calling in sick because you're just like depressed at home. Now you're messing up at work. And so that's causing a lot of issues, and maybe you're losing money. Maybe you get fired, and as you can see, guys, it becomes a vicious cycle. Like it starts at, let's say, wow, I've gained a lot of weight, but maybe, just maybe, let's consider this, because this happens a lot for a lot of my clients. They come to me and they say, I want to lose weight and I can't. For some reason, I always start and I stop within a day or 2 or 3. I quit. I can't keep it up. I can't ever keep my word to myself. I can't stay with the diet. I never go to the gym, and I'm so frustrated because I want to lose the weight because I'm so unhappy with the way that I look and feel. This isn't the normal me. And we start talking a little bit, and I find out that the reason they're eating a lot is because they're stressed out about something else in their life. They're using food or overeating to kind of like cope with the experiences that they're dealing with in life. It feels good in the moment, like it quells that like pain, the anxiety, the fear, the sadness, the loneliness. I know for me, when I used to be lonely and I hated being single. So when I was single, I got that feeling of loneliness, I would go straight for the bottle and I would drink alcohol. It would numb that pain. I was fine. But then I'd drink a whole bottle of wine, and then I'd be hungover as heck the next day. And then I'd be really crappy at work. And then my clients weren't getting the best for me because I'm just like halfway there. I'm not even like present because I'm tired and dehydrated and feeling like crap. And then my clients aren't getting great results. And then my business could take a dump, right? It didn't, thank God. I stopped it. I caught it very quickly. But that's an example of a vicious cycle of unhealthiness or of failure, so to speak, right? And this happens to a lot of my clients. They come to me and they say that they can't lose the weight, but it's typically not necessarily the fact that they can't lose the weight. It usually stems from something else that's causing them to overeat. That's one. But then it's also, why aren't you keeping your word to yourself? Why aren't you able to say, I'm making a promise, I'm going to do this, and you just never can? And you can see how failure can be habitual in the sense that it's a vicious cycle. It just goes over and over and over. Let's say you lose the husband, you lose the relationship, you lose the job. Now you're sad again. Now you're staying away from people because you're in shame. And then it just goes over. It's just like this vicious cycle, right? No one wants that. And that happens to a lot of my clients. I can say that I was there once when in my 20s and my late 30s and early and even mid 30s, I was always in that vicious cycle of unhappiness, and it became a habit because these behaviors just like they stick. And when I'm talking about these behaviors, I'm talking about these maladaptive behaviors, these behaviors that help you deal with the emotional pain that you're experiencing when you want to do something or just when you're doing something in general. Like, let's say I want to be in a relationship, but then when you go on dates, let's say that people aren't choosing you or you're not really yourself and you're not starting relationships for whatever reason. And so it makes you feel even more lonely. And then you just like grab onto anybody that's there, and you're choosing people not because you want them, but because you're just settling for anybody, and you're choosing partners that aren't really healthy. You're choosing partners that you normally, if you were good, like if emotionally you felt fine by yourself and you loved your life independent of a partner, you would probably make better choices as a woman or a man, whoever you are listening. You will make better choices when you really truly love yourself and you respect yourself and you honor the fact that you deserve and can have anybody that you want. And not in a conceited way, guys. It's in a very conscious, loving, I'm great, I deserve great too. Like a very humble way, right? And when you feel that way about yourself, you do make better choices in partners. But if you don't feel that way, what I would love to have you consider is like, and ask yourself, why don't I feel that way about myself? And a lot of times this is because of things that you've learned, these beliefs that you've learned about yourself that aren't true. These limiting beliefs like, I'm not worthy, I'm not valuable, I'm too much, I'm not enough, I'm not beautiful, I'm not smart, I don't deserve to have the best, I should just accept whatever people give me, I need to give to people in order to get anything, I'll accept the bare minimum, right? And these typically beliefs come from the experiences that we've had in our past, either that we were told, that we were modeled, or that we experienced ourselves. And we don't realize a lot of times that we're living the life that we are now because of the experiences that we had in our past that created these deep beliefs about ourselves, other people, or the world. And then we're living from those beliefs, and those beliefs create these emotions and these thoughts about ourselves and the world and others. And now we're making decisions and acting out from those deeper beliefs that are limiting, that aren't even true. And unfortunately, they keep us in that stuckness. They keep you in just the bare minimum, or they keep you in existence that, again, you're just surviving. And it feels like failure. Most of the women that come to work with me, especially in Bloom, they come to me all, like I've had like personal interviews with them, and I've talked to a lot of them, and they've told me, I just want to love myself. I just want to give myself the things that I deep in my heart, I know I deserve, but then I keep settling for scraps, for breadcrumbs. I want to live out my dreams, but I don't feel like I can. Or I want to love myself the way I really feel like I deserve to be loved, but a part of me doesn't, like whenever I go to like spend money on myself or invest in myself, something tells me, you don't deserve that. You've done all these bad things in your past. What makes you think that this is going to be any different? You're probably going to mess this up. It's not going to work for you. You've done too much. It's not going to work for you. It'll work for other people, but it won't work for you. And I promise you it's not true. These deep beliefs, they really, really inform your thoughts. And your thoughts are the things that will affect your emotions, and then you'll take action from there. But your beliefs are the most important thing, guys, that we really want to like deep dive into. And this is the work that I do with women in Bloom. We are looking at the behaviors that are going on in their lives. And we say, what don't we like right now? What doesn't feel good? What do we know isn't helping and aligned with the future that we really want? And they have to get really honest with themselves. I think sometimes for some people, this is kind of like the hardest part, because when you admit to yourself that, life doesn't look or feel really good right now, there's a part of you that has to admit that you are a part or the reason why this is happening in your life, right? And that doesn't feel really good. But you have to know where you're starting from in order to know where you're going. Think of it as like a GPS router, right? You have to know that you're in LA in order to get to Paris. So otherwise the map can't be routed correctly, right? So you have to sit there and admit, this is where I am today. And I don't really like it. It doesn't feel very good. It doesn't look very good. It sucks, actually. And then we have to kind of reconcile that I had a lot to do with it, because I've accepted this, or I've created it, or I've maybe just subconsciously created and don't even know how I created it. But I am willing to admit that this is where I am, but I want to go there. The only way you're going to get there is by admitting where you are first, right? So this is what I mean by failure being a habit, or unhappiness being a habit, or unhealth or disease being a habit. This is the work that I'm doing with Women in Bloom, and they're finding that they're really getting to know themselves in a way that they've never been able to get to know themselves. And not in a way that's like, ugh, look at all this yuck. It's like, more than anything, what I think most of the women feel and what I hear them tell me is that, wow, I make sense. Like, now I know why this has been happening. It makes total sense. It sucks, but it makes sense. And now I know that I didn't do it on purpose. So now let's how do we undo it? And then we get to work to do all that stuff. We look at the behaviors that they're doing or the life that they're living, the emotions they're having. We connect it. There's a really great way that we use, the process that we use. It's called the belief change framework. And we trace it back to their past. We trace that past experience to understand what beliefs they have. We understand what beliefs are creating the behaviors and thoughts that they have now. And then we do the belief change framework so that we can undo those limiting beliefs. And then we create unlimited beliefs. And it's creating so much change in women's lives. They're getting to know themselves. They're loving themselves more. They're connecting to themselves more. They're being a lot more compassionate. The inner voice stops yelling and talking crap like it used to. It's a lot more supportive internal system, like your mind and your emotions. And it's really, really healthy. And I'm just seeing all these women transform, and it's so exciting. But we'll talk about Bloom in a second. So now I want to show you guys what it would look like where success is a habit. So how do you make success a habit? How do you make happiness a habit? So when people come to work with me, I look at them really holistically. And you've heard me talk about this before when I talk about how healing happens or how trauma is created and then how you have to heal. In episode number, I think it's 78 or 79, where I say how I coach behind the scenes. Let's link that in the show notes below. It's episode number 78. And it's such a great podcast episode because I go deep and I give you guys all the details of how I screen somebody and assess them. If you're a coach, you should listen to that podcast episode. I give you all of it. So my goal with people is to get them a lot more connected because trauma creates disconnection. That's one of the podcast episodes that's coming up, by the way. So it creates disconnection from your brain and your body. They're not connected. They're not talking to each other. Your brain hemispheres, your right and left brain hemispheres, they're not talking to each other. And, what that creates, let me explain what your brain and body, what happens there. When your brain and body aren't talking to each other, your emotions aren't connecting to your brain and saying, hey, I'm feeling this emotion, help me process it. So that way I understand it logically, and then I can understand why it's happening, and then I can just process it, and then it moves on. Well, when the brain and body aren't connected, and this happens because of trauma or just difficult past experiences, or when you're in a stress response, okay? This can happen anytime, actually, but it happens most to people who've been subjected to a lot of this consistently. The brain and body get disconnected from each other, and there's not what I call linkage, and we want them linked up. They need to be talking to each other, so emotions tell the brain, I'm in fear, and then the brain says, oh, we're fearful because we're starting a new job. Oh, but this is just a new job. It's not a tiger. And then the brain is able to soothe the body and say, we're okay, guys. It's just a new job. Let's just breathe deep. And then you can process it and you can calm yourself down. That's the ability to regulate your emotions. Okay. So my goal with my clients is to connect their brain and their body better. The left and right brain hemispheres, they also need to be connected, because if they're not, you have the emotional brain and the logical brain, and those need to be actually talking to each other, because it's very similar to the brain and body, where you're using logic and emotion to kind of process a thought, and they both need to be involved. When they're not involved, you tend to be way more emotional or way more logical, and it's helpful sometimes when you're using logic at work and you're not going to use your emotion too much, right? Or it's good to be in emotion and using your right brain when you're being creative or when you're being connected to somebody, right? You want to be in that deep emotion, but they also need to be working together. And a lot of times when you've experienced a lot of emotional pain, you will learn that we don't deal with our emotions, and you stay more in your left brain and your logical brain. Or you do the opposite. When you've learned that you get a lot when you are more emotional, or when you want to connect, or when you're in need of emotion based on some past experience, that you learn that we need to be very conscious of our emotions, because if we stay conscious of our body, nobody will hurt us. When that happens, you tend to stay way more in your body. So a lot of times people are either way too right brain or way too left brain. You've met these people. Some people are just very logical and very, analytical and analyze a lot, and they're not very emotional. And by that, I mean, they're just not more like affectionate and expressive with their emotions, or physically expressive or verbally expressive, right? And those are people that probably tend to stay in their left, and there's people that are really overly sensitive and very emotional and anxious and fearful and, oh my God, I'm hot. Oh my God, I'm hungry. I used to be that person. I was so much in my emotions. I was like, everything used to feel really exaggerated. Like if I was hot, oh my God, let's put the air on. If I was too cold, I needed to have a jacket. If I was hungry, I needed to eat emotional. Like I needed to eat immediately. It was like this really drastic, intense physical and emotional feeling. Like I was too much in my body. I didn't think enough. I was way too right brain. So those are the two ways that people get disconnected because of their past. So their brain and body aren't connected, and their right and left brain hemispheres aren't connected. And I can always assess people, and I can always tell where they are. What we want to be connected with is we want to be connected with our past. We want to understand it really logically. We want to have good memory of everything. We want to understand all the different experiences that we've had in our past. And you want to just be able to like look at it without an emotional charge. So when you are really connected to your brain and body, your brain, hemispheres, and then your memory and your story about your past and all your beliefs and things like that, when you're really connected, you are feeling what's called integrated. Everything works really integrated together. That's like a mixture of everything. Everything works really well. You have a lot of separation and linkage. You've heard me talk about this before, guys. Separation means everything is really independent. Right brain works, left brain works. Emotions, you feel your emotions really well, you think really well, you understand your past. So everything's really separated and independent, but collectively, they're all really linked. So when that happens, when everything works really well independently, but then together, then that creates complexity. In systems theory, there's a saying, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That's what this means. We want to be whole, and we want all of our parts to be independent, but when they come together, they're really complex. When everything's working really well together, it creates wisdom, it creates compassion, it creates love, it creates creativity, it creates flow, it creates confidence, it creates clarity, calmness. You have what's called, you're in the faces flow. Dr. Siegel says, integration is marked by these 5 things. You're flexible, you're adaptive, you're coherent, which means you have a logical understanding that things are connected. You're energetic, and you're stable. So that's how people look when they're really, really healthy, right? When I call it successful. Success is a habit. And that's ideal. That's complexity. That's how we want to feel all the time. Flexible, like you could go with the flow. You're really adaptive. If you go into some new place, you're like, okay, I can adapt to the situation, right? You're not rigid, and you're not like all over the place. You're not in chaos. I've talked about this before too. And you have a lot of energy. Things make sense to you, and you're really stable. You're consistent, right? So we've all met these people. There's a lot of people that we meet that are really just, I don't want to say like, yeah, I guess I would say they're just like confident, and they have this air about themselves, and they have this calm confidence, and they can really manage their emotions and their thoughts really well. I strive to be there. I've come a long way, guys. Oh my gosh, to say that I was disconnected and not in my faces flow is like an understatement. I was a hot mess, and I really feel like I have come a really long way, and I want that for all of my clients that I work with, especially my beautiful women in bloom. So I want to give you an example of what complexity looks like, or like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So there's this theory, there's this saying, a whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And I want to give you an example. So a plane has lots of different parts, right? Seats and a wheel and wings on a plane and seat belts and windshields. What else is in there? Luggage, all kinds of things, right? Stewards, all kinds of people. It's made up of all these different things. And each thing is really great on its own, right? A seat is really important. A seatbelt is really important. Airbags and all, like a steering wheel. All these things are really, really important. But when you mix them all together, they make a freaking airplane, this big, amazing, resource, this big thing, this entity that allows people to get on it, sit on it, and travel all over the world. How amazing is that? How complex is that? That's complexity. And we want to be that way. I hope everybody strives to be that way. We want to be really connected with everything, our brain and our body, that we become really complex and wise and strong and confident and loving and compassionate, just like that. That's the idea. So I want to talk to you a little bit about like what success would look like, right? I went on a little bit of a tangent, but it was very much on purpose, I swear. So let's say you, after working with me in Bloom, because this is the way women get, right? Let's say you worked with me in Bloom and now you understand your past really well. You're like, Annabelle, I now know that what happened at me when I was 5 and 12 and 17 and 25 and all these different things that I've experienced, it caused me to change and have all these different beliefs. And because I had all these different beliefs, it made me act in all these different ways. And wow, I make so much sense. So now you have so much more understanding and clarity and compassion with yourself. Now, my clients tell me that now when they make a mistake or they just do anything that isn't like perfect, maybe before they used to feel like they had to be perfect. Now when they make a mistake or they just do something wrong or they forget something, they're like, oh, it's okay. It's just because, I was running around and I was busy, but it's okay. Let's go back and get it. So they're a lot more calm and they're really forgiving of themselves. And now because they're really forgiving of themselves, they're not rushing all the time. They're not angry. Let's say they go to work and they're in a good mood because they just feel really peaceful and energized because they're resting well. While they're at work, they understand themselves better. They understand their coworkers better too, because when you get to know yourself, you really get to know other people. You use the information about yourself to understand others. So now that you're understanding others, your relationships are really good at work. And because your relationships are really good at work, you're helping people that you normally maybe wouldn't help. When someone makes a mistake on something or a client, you get upset with a client or a client does something, you're not as prone to get upset. You're way more compassionate and understanding. So your relationships are better. So now you're doing great at work. Your bosses see that. Maybe you get a promotion or you get a raise because people are saying like, Annabelle's just like a really great coworker to work with. Or my clients are like, you're such a joy to work with, Annabelle. You help me so much. You're present. You understand me. And then because of that, let's say you're at work and now you're getting more money. And because you have more money now, you feel really confident. Let's say you're able to get a new place. Because you get a new place, you're living in a whole new city where it just like opens you up to all these new experiences. And you're thinking bigger because you're around people that maybe earn more money and they have a very different lifestyle. And because of that, you meet better friends and then you decide to start a business and you start a business so you make even more money. I gave you guys a really small example. Because of that, it can expand you in so many ways. I didn't even get to let's say you're a parent and because you're more calm with yourself, you're way more calm and considerate with your children. And because you're more calm and peaceful and attuning with your kids, now because you're more attuning with your kids, they're so healthy. They're learning how to regulate themselves and they're really being exactly who they are. You're not judging them or trying to change them and mold them into what you want them to be. And they're really healthy and they love you so much and you're connecting to them better. You feel like a great mom. You feel like a great mom. Your husband is just like, look at my wife. She's amazing. Look at this woman. Your guys' relationship is better. Because he just adores how he just sees all the differences with you. You guys are relating better. Now you guys are more intimate. You guys are spending more time together. The whole family unit is a lot stronger. Your husband's changing because he sees the difference in you. Your children are changing. This happens a lot, by the way. You guys, this happens to so many of my clients. This happened to me. Me doing the work made me such a better mother and a better coach. Oh my gosh, I can't wait till I'm in a relationship. I'm going to be such a great girlfriend. I hope. Here's willing, right? You can see how success is it can be a habit. Health can change. And the reason this is, you guys, is because health is recursive. Success is recursive. What is recursive? It builds on itself. So what that means is if you are, let's say you have an emotion, and because you have an emotion that, let's say you have fear, and normally you'd have fear and you freak out about your fear and you'd have fear and now you'd have anxiety because when you can't manage your fear, you can get anxiety. on top of it or panic. So let's say now you have fear and you're able to be like, oh, I'm having fear. Now you know how to look at your emotions and process them, because I teach you that in Bloom. That's, to me, is one of the superpowers that I teach you guys in Bloom. And you have an emotion, so you're able to see it, you're able to process it, because your brain and body are connected. Remember, guys, we can process things better. So let's say you're processing things better and you soothe yourself. And because you soothe yourself, you have a lot of safety and confidence. Like, oh my gosh, I got through that. Wow. So internally, you feel really strong, really confident, and you feel really resilient. Now, because you're really resilient, your brain is able to process things really well. What that does is it creates neural pathways. Dr. Siegel calls it, what's the saying? I can't think of the saying. Neural integration creates, I forgot the saying. Dr. Siegel says this really great saying. I'm going to try to remember it, and I'm going to put it in the show notes if I can find it. But basically what he says is, when you have really great integration, like in your body, like from your brain to body, right brain to left brain, right hemisphere to left hemisphere, what that does is it creates this flow that's really supportive and soothing, right? Everything's working really well together. And because that happens, it creates neural firing in your brain, and literally your brain changes. And because your brain changes, it's not doing the same behaviors that it did before. It actually does a lot of supportive, it has supportive pathways. So now you have all these healthy habits that are happening. So now, because you have all these healthy habits and healthy neural pathways and beliefs and thoughts and emotions and behaviors going on in your brain, now that creates way more strength in your brain, and that changes and really supports better linkage with your brain and your body and your right and left brain hemisphere. So because of that, now you have emotions that comes up, and your brain is even stronger and has even more capacity to soothe itself. And it gets stronger and stronger and stronger the more this happens. It becomes what I call an ambitious cycle. And health is recursive. And you guys, I promise you, I've been doing this work for a little over 3-4 years, and I am amazed at how much better I get in time. I literally change and I get better and better and better. I always tell my clients, you're just going to get better. Just watch. Because if you keep on noticing your feelings, processing them, you feel really supportive inside, what happens is you have a lot more internal resource. Your brain and body feel like there's a lot of internal support for yourself. And because there's more support internally, you feel like you can do anything. So you do things now that are hard. And when you do hard things, you're able to do them easily, because you feel like, oh, I can handle that. I handled that before. I can handle this now. And so it just becomes this like strength upon support, upon love, upon compassion, upon confidence, upon pride. And then it just gets better and better and better. And it literally gets better over time, you guys. I promise you. I'm not joking. I see all my clients, they just get better and better. And if you learn these tools, concepts that I teach in Bloom, called the self-connection framework, the self-organization model, the belief change framework, all these amazing things that help you get more linked and healthy linkage and healthy separation, right? We always want it to be healthy. We don't want like those opposites of the beach. Success becomes a habit. Health becomes a habit. No more failure, no more disease, no more dysregulation. Emotional regulation becomes a habit. Success becomes a habit. You're able to do harder things. You're able to get more confident. And this is available to you guys. This is available to everybody. I used to be a hot mess. I would no longer call myself a hot mess. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I'm like this whole evolved. I'm not freaking Buddha. But I am well on my way to really great, amazing integration. I have my moments. Everybody does. Things are going to happen in your life where they catch you off guard. But I'm so much better than I was before. I was so much pain before. And this is available to you guys. And if this is something that you want to feel, if you're tired of being in that failure habit, in that failure loop, this is available to you. I am personally inviting you to join me in Bloom. There's dozens of women in this program. It is such a supportive community. Everyone is sitting there doing the work, showing up every week, supporting each other. I mean, I literally look forward to these calls every single week. We meet 2 times a week for 90 minutes every single week. There's an evening call, there's a day call. And it's the most exciting part of my week every single week. I love doing it. I'm opening enrollment again, you guys, on Black Friday. And then on December 6th when I'm doing like the full formal enrollment for Bloom. So if you're interested, I want to encourage you, click the link below in the show notes and join the wait list, because if you're on the wait list, you're going to get really, really special Black Friday sales, which is a huge discount, guys. You're going to get like 20% off the price of Bloom. If this is something you want to do for yourself for Christmas, to buy yourself that gift, to invest in yourself, I know it may be hard, especially if you've never done it before, but it is one of the most best gifts you can ever give yourself. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I promise you, you're going to see that. Health has the best and highest ROI, because you get better and better as you keep healing, You just get more confident, you just get more loving, you just get more compassionate, you just get more kind, you just get more empathetic, you have better relationships, you have more capacity and internal resource to help others, to help yourself, to change, to try anything. And it's a gift that I really want to give you, and I want to help you give yourself. I'd be honored to be your coach, and I want you guys to take advantage of these amazing sales. And there's something else I'm going to talk about, but I'll talk about it in a couple weeks when we launch Bloom, or we open enrollment formally December 6th through the 11th, because there's like these amazing bonuses that you get when you're a Bloom member. So I'm going to kind of hold on to that and share that with you guys in a couple weeks. But I hope this spoke to you. I hope this helped you. I hope you were able to learn a little bit more about how failure can really be a habit that you just get really stuck in. But you guys, there's hope. You can stop it. I've seen hundreds of women stop the bad habits and get on the success habit and have that integration. They have that beautiful separation and linkage. Their brain and body are really speaking to each other. Their hemispheres are speaking to each other. They understand themselves so much better. And if I could do it and all these women can do it, I promise you, you can too. You're not special in the sense that like you've done too much bad stuff or it's not going to work for you. It can work for you. And I've made a program that doesn't let anybody fall behind. I check in with you guys. I've created so many, like, I call them like safety nets to like catch you guys when I see people are stuck. I'm always checking in with you guys. You have full access to me via the Facebook group. We're always communicating in there. We're meeting 2 times a week. It's just a beautiful community. And I really, really want to invite you to join me there. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you guys next week. Have a good one.